This is my digital story. My name is Edna Lin Ma. I like to go by Lin, and my background is Filipino and Chinese, and I was born in Zamboanga, Philippines. In my hometown where I am from, I learned that the indigenous people native to my area were the Subanon tribe. These people were originally found living along the riverbanks but now mainly reside in the mountains since the arrival of many settlers. I moved to Canada with my family when I was 8. I currently reside in Toronto, Ontario, specifically Scarborough. Scarborough is on the ground of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. I learned that the land of Scarborough was not included in the original Toronto Purchase of 1787. It wasn't until the Williams Treaty of 1923 that Scarborough was finally ceded. The sit spot I chose is Algonquin Park. I have been visiting this park every summer for the past 4 years. Algonquin Park is my chosen sit spot because it is beautiful, peaceful, and is surrounded by pure nature. The sit spot that I have chosen is on top of this beautiful cliff in the Boots Rock Trail. I remember when I first visited that spot. It was a beautiful sunny day with a few clouds. Eventually, everyone made their way down, but we decided to stay as the rain had already started. This was an experience I can never forget. It was so beautiful to see the rain pouring down over the forest. It wasn't fully overcast, it was pouring, but you can see the clouds and the blue skies through the rain. A sweet little friend even came out to greet us during the rain. We named him Chippy. The rain didn't last for a very long time. Shortly after, it passed, and we were so glad to have stayed because the next thing we experienced was the vapor rising from the forest. It was another beautiful sight to experience. On our hike back down, the trails were puddled and muddy, so we decided to walk through it without our shoes. Surprisingly, it was a pleasant experience and was actually quite therapeutic. We even got to see a beaver swimming. All in all, this is one of my favorite experiences in Algonquin Park. I felt very connected to nature and have never had such a beautiful experience. I already had an appreciation for nature before this, but even more so during this awe-struck experience. Currently, Algonquin Park is considered as unceded land, belonging to the Algonquins of Ontario. The treaty in the past was made with the Mississaugas during the late 1700s and the early 1800s. The Algonquins never received any compensation, gave no consent, or had any participation in it, which is why the Algonquins of Ontario in the mid-1980s submitted a land claim to Canada, asserting that the Crown never entered into a treaty with the Algonquins and that they have continuing rights over the land. In this present day, the Algonquins of Ontario are still in negotiation with the government to settle this land claim. If successful, this will be the province's first modern-day constitutionally protected treaty. The Indigenous peoples have always had special relationships and respect for the land which they live on. In my perspective, and from all that I have learned from this course and further research, the Indigenous peoples were content with what they had. They never seemed to have been driven by greed to make profits off of the land they lived in. Rather, they only took what they needed to survive. I find their way of life to be very commendable. This is something we can all learn from them. These are some questions that I still think about. What else have we not yet uncovered about our history with the Indigenous peoples? What other lands were stolen from them and are still without a treaty? It's shocking to hear of the history that the Indigenous people faced, how some of them did not fully understand the meaning of these treaties, that they were giving up their land and rights. After this course, I have become more grateful and feel much compassion for these people, knowing that they were living peacefully and abundantly in these lands before different settlers came. With all of this, I want to give my appreciation and respect to all of the Indigenous peoples for their role and sacrifices over all of these years. Especially as a person who migrated to Canada to find a better life, I am very appreciative of the opportunity to live on this land. Thank you for watching my digital story.